Good evening, Mayor Smith, Vice Mayor Haas, fellow council members, Councilmember-elect Israel, and my fellow residents. I would like to speak with you tonight about a subject that I believe is of great interest and concern to all of us. Out-of-town ambulance transport is a source of lingering unease and apprehension for our residents. Notwithstanding the fact that this issue has been discussed in these chambers on multiple occasions in the past, the reasons why we transport out of town and the controlling laws and contracts remain unclear for some residents. Whether I'm out jogging or walking my dog or riding the elevator, I often get the same questions over and over again. Why are our medics and our ambulance leaving town to transport someone who neither lives nor pays taxes in Ponce Inlet? What I am hoping to accomplish with this presentation is to provide a comprehensive overview of the legal and legislative aspects controlling out-of-town transports which supersede or restrict this council's authority, discretion, and control. Next. It is my belief that everyone here this evening agrees that the fewer the number of out-of-town runs, the better. With this as our starting point, let us turn back the clock to learn how we got to where we are today. Next. Throughout my presentation, I will refer to various statutes, ordinances, agreements, certificates, and legal rulings. I have compiled all of these documents into a single file, and anyone who is interested in obtaining a copy should contact me directly. My email address is on the screen, and you can also find it on the town's website. Before I start with the substantive portion of my presentation, I would like to thank three individuals who generously gave their time and shared their knowledge on this topic. Fire Chief Dan Scales, Local 4140 President Derek George, and Vice President John Brooks. Central to this discussion is a document known as a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, or a COPCN, which I will refer to as a certificate. This critical document is what allows us to provide medical transportation services. The certificate under which we operate is held by Volusia County and not by Ponce Inlet. In other words, we operate under the county certificate because we do not have one of our own. Next slide. In August 2012, Fire Chief Dan Scales, working in cooperation with the City of Edgewater and Volusia County, established a pilot program to allow the two municipalities to start transporting non-emergency patients. In March 2017, we entered into the Peak Load Utilization System, or PLUS, program with Volusia County. The goal and intent of PLUS was for the town to supplement the county's medical transport. Starting in April 2019, the town entered into the closest available response element agreement, or CARE. This agreement incorporated the use of automatic vehicle locator, or AVL technology, to determine the closest available transport unit. Next. Next slide, thank you. Because the town does not have a certificate of its own, we must either abide by the terms of the CARE agreement or we lose the legal authority to perform medical transportation. Next slide. At present, Ponce Inlet is one of 5 Volusia County municipalities that provide medical transportation services for its residents. The other 4, Edgewater, Deltona, New Smyrna Beach, and Port Orange, operate under the same CARE agreement that we do. The remainder of all Volusia municipalities are serviced by EVAC. Frustration over the terms of the CARE agreement was summed up by Commissioner Chris Nabick of Deltona, himself a retired firefighter. In a News Journal article dated April 19, 2019, he described CARE as, quote, a take it or leave it agreement. We either sign this agreement or we no longer transport, close quote. At the April 18, 2019 Ponce Inlet Council meeting, as we were discussing our own renewal, I raised the take it or leave it issue with Chief Scales, at which time he confirmed my understanding. The care agreement spells out specific requirements for the county as well as the town. Under the agreement, the county holds the certificate, handles the 911 calls, dispatches resources, and provides insurance. The statutorily required medical director is also provided by the county. The county also handles the patient billing services. The town's obligations are to respond to calls within Ponce Inlet and provide mutual aid to other municipalities as needed. Next slide. At the May 17, 2018 council meeting, the town needed to renew its participation under the county-held certificate. It was placed on the agenda as item number 13A. Next. During the same meeting, Mayor Smith requested that Fire Chief Scales begin itemizing the in and out of town transport statistics as part of his monthly reports. In doing so, the mayor made sure that all of our residents would have access to the same comprehensive information that the council did at the end of each calendar month. The meeting was opened up for public comment, and several of our residents were heard on the matter. My research on this issue went back almost 50 years. The two key events took place, one in 1973 and one in 1982, and I will explain both of them to you now. In 1973, the Florida legislature passed and enacted what is known today as the Raymond H. Alexander, M.D. Emergency Medical Transportation Services Act. Dr. Alexander led the effort for the uniform and systematic provision of emergency medical services. Florida Statute 125.01, the legislated trauma system in the state of Florida, delegates power to the counties and allows the counties to regulate medical transport. In 1982, a landmark legal ruling in the case of County of Volusia versus City of Daytona Beach. The City of Daytona Beach challenged Volusia County's denial of a certificate, bringing into question the constitutionality of Florida Statute 125.01 and the authority of the county to oversee medical transportation. In its ruling, the 5th District Court of Appeals upheld the state's preemption of medical transportation and the delegation of certain duties to the counties. In other words, the state retains the sole legal authority on medical transportation and has given specific aspects of that authority to the counties. The entire matter of the issuance of a certificate rests with the counties. This truly was a landmark decision, as the case is referenced and a portion of the court's findings are incorporated into Volusia County's ordinances relating to the issuance of certificates. These references remain in the ordinance as of today. The decision affirms that the issuance of a certificate is delegated to the county. Now that we have established the background, we can better understand why our ambulance performs out-of-town transports. Per Florida 125.01, the county has the statutory authority to adopt ordinances, resolutions, and exercise these powers. In the exercise of these powers, the county stipulates that Ponce Inlet must participate in the care agreement. What are the pros and cons of the care agreement? The town realizes a significant amount of revenue from these operations. During fiscal year 2018-2019, this produced almost $120,000 of income. Ponce Inlet does not lose money on out-of-town transports. As previously mentioned, the county provides insurance, a medical director, and billing services. In addition, the county provides backup services should our resources become unavailable or exhausted for any reason. The county also repositions resources closer to Ponce Inlet to be ready should another call come in. On our side, the agreement requires us to provide out-of-town transport services on an as-needed basis. Let's take a look at the impact the CARE program has had on the availability of our ambulance to service our residents. Since the inception of the CARE program on April 1st, 2019, through September 30th of this year, a total of 446 transports were done. On 8 occasions, EVAC had to respond to a call in Ponce Inlet. Of the 8 calls that EVAC handled in Ponce Inlet, 6 of them were the result of our ambulance being out of town while transporting one of our own residents. EVAC provided backup. Given this information, what are our options? Can we withdraw from the CARE agreement? The answer is yes, but there are consequences. As previously mentioned, the town does not hold its own certificate. Once we withdraw from CARE, we lose the legal authority to transport patients. The county would then step in as the only legally authorized provider of these services. Is there any way to bypass the need for a certificate and obtain the authority to transport directly from the state? Actually, there is. Florida Statute 401.33 does provide for exemptions. Unfortunately, we do not qualify for one. An example of an entity that qualifies would be NASCAR's operations at the Speedway. NASCAR arranges for private medical transportation of injured drivers on private property under an exemption to 401.33 granted directly by the state. Such exemptions are not available to municipalities. Can we apply for our own certificate? The answer is yes. There are provisions within Volusia County's ordinance that provide a procedure for making an application. The problem is that the county will not grant the certificate unless we also agree to provide out-of-town transport. Under County Ordinance Section 46-92 M3B, the holder of the certificate, that would be us if it is granted, shall provide services authorized by the certificate to adjacent areas or routes when requested to do so by a public safety agency or EMS provider. Consider the situation we would find ourselves in under our own certificate. We would bear all the financial costs that the county currently pays for under CARE and still be performing out-of-town transports. We also do not know how this would impact the availability of the current level of backup services and resource repositioning. Given our obligations under the CARE agreement, what can we do right now to mitigate the impacts and reduce out-of-town transports as much as possible? Fortunately, there are several steps which are being taken, and I will provide a summary of each of them. A significant number of calls we respond to may not have required an ambulance. Nurse triage and enhanced dispatcher training helps to reduce the overall number of transports while preserving resources for those instances when emergency medical transport is required. Strategic resource positioning is another factor. A county EVAC ambulance stationed in Daytona Beach Shores is more likely to be a closer response unit that could answer a call which otherwise would have required a response from Ponce Inlet. Another significant development involves Port Orange. At present, they are only providing transport for 12 hours per day. This is expected to increase to 24 hours in the near future, reducing the demand for our services when they are not operating. Is there anything which can be done at the state or legislative levels? Can an exemption under 401.33 be added that we would qualify for? Possibly. Here is what we can expect. Pursuing this option could take a long time and could be very expensive. We may need to hire a lobbyist and retain legal counsel. If we prevail, we will bear all of the financial costs that Volusia County now covers. And as mentioned before, it is not clear if the county would continue to provide backup services. Can we attempt to obtain a COPCN, the certificate, through the county's application process and then litigate the statutory condition that we still do out-of-town transports? The answer is yes. That action could be viewed as following in the footsteps of Daytona Beach and perhaps relitigating the 1982 case. But this approach raises an important question for all of us. How do we want our tax dollars expended? Do we want to spend them on lawyers and lobbyists, no offense, Cliff, or on firefighters and equipment? Even if we were to consider legal or legislative action, how much do we stand to benefit and what could we lose? Mutual aid is a cooperative system. So to summarize, we currently operate under the county's certificate, which mandates that we respond to out-of-town calls when needed. Ponce Inlet is one of 5 cities cooperating under the CARE agreement. Obtaining our own certificate would not release us from this obligation and would only add to our overhead costs. Seeking an exemption under Florida Statute 401.33 would take considerable time and cost us both lobbying and legal fees. It may be preferable to spend the money on additional staff and equipment. We should continue to pursue the mitigation efforts currently in effect. Due to COVID, out-of-town transport was suspended in March of 2020 and only recently reinstated on October 5th. As such, we have not had ample time to assess the impact of our mitigation efforts. As of this morning, our ambulance has not done a single out-of-town run since the program was reinstated. We should continue to monitor the data to assess the impact of our mitigation strategies in the hope that we can realize our mutual goal of reducing out-of-town transports within the framework of the agreement we are currently in with Volusia County.